Well, Mike, as we sit here in South Bend with the wind chill at about minus 14 on this Tuesday, it's nice to bring a little warmth to the conversation as Notre Dame got a commitment from an interesting linebacker from the Hawaiian Islands.
Yeah, lucky Marty Biaggi gets to recruit the state of Hawaii for Notre Dame. Very good for him. And yeah, I mean, his efforts, along with a few other Notre Dame coaches, kind of paid off on Monday night. Ko'o Kia announcing his commitment to the Fighting Irish. 6'2", around 210 pounds. And yeah, from Honolulu, Punahou. Currently a three-star linebacker, but don't worry about the rankings right now for 2025 class. Very, very, very early. So some interesting stuff. He was just on campus at Notre Dame over the weekend, and he was the only recruit on campus to my knowledge. And his visit was kind of twofold, Darren. It was part as a recruit who was very much considering Notre Dame, and part as a brother of a Notre Dame football player who was moving back to school. His older brother's Kahanu Kia, who signed with Notre Dame in the 2021 recruiting class, and then took a 2-year mission trip. Now, Darren, when these young men take their Mormon mission, oftentimes it's before they start their college career. You had Kahanu do a season at Notre Dame and then leave for 2 years, which doesn't affect his eligibility clock. He still has 4 years to play because that freshman season he only played in 2 games. So oftentimes when those kids come back, they can just they can go wherever they want there, and they can go to Utah or BYU or go back to in-state school in Hawaii. And Kahanu decided he wanted to come back to Notre Dame. And then Ko'o, Notre Dame's recruiting him the hardest. The staff really wanted him. So now you have the Kia brothers linking up in South Bend, and their father, Nate Kia, head coach at Punahou High School, and a former Utah defensive lineman. So some pretty good bloodlines there. You got the family connection with the brothers there. Notre Dame's obviously done pretty well with brothers, over the past few years. And here's another interesting thing about Kia's background, talking about Ko'o, with him getting to Notre Dame in 2025, he will have 3 years to play with his brother, who is 4 years older than him. That's because of his brother, is going to come back as a sophomore, who can play for 4 really kind of that redshirt freshman. He's got 4 years to play, so that's really cool. Of course, the 2024 season, he won't get to play with him. Talking about Ko'o, but yeah, again, really cool, Darren. And then as far as him as a player, he's kind of just what I would call a defensive athlete. Mike Will, defensive ends, kind of a true outside linebacker. This guy can do a lot of different things. Ko'o Kia's, I think it's a really good get. His film is just fun to watch. All of these, kind of scouting guru guys that I talked to, and doing an article at Blue and Gold titled, what the experts are saying about him. Very high praises. So I think there's a lot of reason to be excited about Ko'o Kia's commitment to the Fighting Irish. And he comes from the high school that Manti Te'o attended, so that's not bad either.
You stole my thunder. That's how I was going to wrap up this conversation. So Ko'o Kia picks the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame. And just a quick follow-up. You said don't get all worked up about the star system for the 25 class. I assume most analysts are still wrapping up the 24 class before really digging in on 25.
Yeah, I was when I was in San Antonio at the beginning of the month, I spent a lot of time with the 2 rankings guys there from On3, and whenever the 25 class they came up there, like, man, we have not been able to dive into the junior class as much as we would have liked to yet, because yeah, you have the senior film, ahead of signing day, and then you have the all-star games. So yeah, that's more their focus. But so I would anticipate, they're finishing up the 24 class rankings right now, I believe, and then they'll get to 2025 probably in February, I would guess.
Mike, where does the Notre Dame 2025 class stand now?
How about this word, Darren? It is advanced at this stage of this cycle. Notre Dame already has, Darren, 14 commitments, right? 14 commitments. And if you're like, okay, Mike, why is that important? Notre Dame, I think the past 2 years, has signed 23 total players per class, right? Maybe it's 24 a couple years ago, but they signed 23, right? And they're already at 14 and signing day is in 11 months. So you're telling me the class is like 60%, 65% full, something like that? For high school players, that's a high number. So again, Notre Dame, 14 commitments. You got the quarterback locked in with Deuce Knight. Really good safeties committed, and Ivan Taylor and Ethan Long. 4 defensive linemen committed. You got a tight end locked in, 2 running backs, 2 linebackers. I mean, like, the class is really just missing. They don't have any receivers yet, so they're going to need, probably 3 receivers. They'll take a couple more offensive tackles to go along with Will Black, who's outstanding. And yeah, I mean, this class is cooking, Darren. I think it's really good. And how about this? Creed Thomas from Brophy Prep in Phoenix. That's where, of course, Ben Morrison went to high school. Creed Thomas kind of has a similar play style to Ben Morrison. That's someone that Creed has looked up to for a long time. And then Will Black is drawing Joe Alt comparisons for kind of like the way that he moves and his size and all those things. So, Darren, that sounds pretty damn good to me. And then you have, your highest ranked player of the class is your quarterback. Sign me up. So that's great. And then Notre Dame currently, again, with 14 commitments, that is the most of any school in the country. The team with the second most is Oklahoma with 9. Like, that gap of 5 commits at this stage is kind of unheard of. So it's impressive. The last thing I want to say on this, Darren, is if you look at the different rankings websites, and I've explained this before in articles and videos of Blue and Gold, but I want to make sure that more people kind of understand this, because I've seen comments and people are like, Mike, why does On3 hate Notre Dame so much? Why does Notre Dame have the number 5 class when 24/7 and Rivals have Notre Dame with the number 1 class, and probably ESPN as well? And they don't say it in that tone either, Darren. It's much more angry. And I tell them, like, those websites early on, it's very much a popularity contest. It's who has the most commitments is ranked highest. But what On3 tries to do, and I'm not going to go into the details of it right now just for the sake of time, but it's more of a reflection of what things might look like at the end of the year, or like the quality of your commits. So basically there's a rolling average of 3 commitments. It only takes your top 3 commitments because that's the average of the amount of commits per P5 school, if that makes sense. So Notre Dame at the number 5 school in the country right now. You tell me what's more likely to happen. For the end of the 2025 cycle, Notre Dame signs the number 5 class or the number 1 class. Notre Dame always has the number 1 class early in the cycle because they have more commits than everyone else, but they never finish number 1. So that's kind of the point there, Mr. Pritchett, for folks to kind of get an understanding of a little bit more how the rankings work for the team side of things. But regardless, it's a really good class, and I think Irish fans have a lot of reason to be excited.
Mike, with 14 commitments on January the 16th, is this a sign that Marcus Freeman and his coaching staff analyze, develop, or pick the guys they want and get the offers out quicker than just some past coaching staffs?
I probably, but to be fair, this has happened under Kelly too. Like, they would jump off the hot starts. Let's just go to the Lou Holtz quote. If you know Notre Dame, no explanation suffices. I always hate bringing up that quote when I don't have it memorized exactly, but it's just one of those things. Like, when you know Notre Dame, you will commit there because you just get it.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big part of Notre Dame jumping out to strong starts. These kids will love Notre Dame, and they'll want to take their spot before someone else does. That happens a lot of times. But so that's part of it. And then, yes, to what you're saying, that's definitely part of it as well.